So I missed my Sunday read yesterday. Got me a Bloody Mary. I've got some other stories I want to read, but as usual, timing's not really right. I got this one little poem I might read, but I was thinking about that list of stories that that list I found, and there was another hunt that I was on back when I was really gung ho about basically being a paleo Indian. I was hunting off the ground all the time, and I was stalking and just trying to be as native as possible, I guess. And I'm back there in the woods where I'm not supposed to be as usual. I'm stalking around. And you'd really be surprised at how much energy it takes to move slowly. Because, if you're moving more than a foot per minute, you're going too fast. And you can't really, you got to use your peripheral vision, because you can't be up and down with your head, because you got to be scanning the horizon the whole time. And so you're using your peripheral vision, moving just slow as a slug. When you take a step, it just, like I said, it takes you a minute to get your foot in front of you, sort of feel around that you're not on a stick or something. Anyway, it takes a lot of energy and a lot of concentration and a lot of balance. That's why I don't do it anymore. Anyway, so I'm back here stalking. You just try and put yourself in a target-rich environment and ease through it until you happen upon a deer. And I'm over here basically behind what we used to call Devil's Ravine. Up the hill of Devil's. I'm not far from the parking lot of this place where I'm not supposed to be. And I'm stalking, and I can hear these deer running all around me. I figure again, there's got to be a doe and a buck chasing. And I can't see them, but I can hear them. So I keep easing, thinking at some point I might get lucky and, intercept them. Well, all of a sudden, what I'm hearing just stops, cease to exist. They've been running around me, and then I said, well, damn. I said, they must have just ran off somewhere. But it occurred to me that at the top of that hill, as I said, was this field where this parking lot for these employees parked. I said, I bet they're running around in that field. So I eased on up there, and sure as hell, I see this doe. He's bolting back and forth across the field. Right up against the damn parking lot. And I don't see the buck anywhere. All of a sudden, she turns, and she runs, and she comes, right by me, about 30, 35 yards. She hauls ass, heads over, ducks in behind this bamboo forest. Well, there's a buck around here somewhere. And there again, he was sort of parallel to me. He steps out in the field, and he's winding that doe. And he gets in sort of a, he's not running, but he's in a kind of a trot. Got his nose to the ground, not really paying attention to what's going on around him. And I mean, he comes by me. I'm standing there. I'm not in the field. I'm in the edge because I don't want to be seen. But he's running parallel to that field. He's parallel to me. He's about, I'd say, 28, 30 yards. He's tracking that doe. And when he gets by me, it's like, it's just one of those instinctive things, I guess. He got quartered away from me. And I could see those last ribs. And I just pulled and anchored and let it fly. And it was the limit of my, it was, like I said, probably 28 yards. Because 30 is pretty much where I don't shoot. And part of the reason I don't shoot past 30 is I'm shooting a stick bow, a self bow, and a 500 grain rock stone point. And 30 yards, you don't really have a flat trajectory. I mean, you're arcing up there pretty high, and then you're coming down, at a pretty steep angle. But I took the shot, and I saw that arrow buried to his fletchings. Again, right in my mind, it was right at the last rib. And I was like, I got that deer. Because that most likely means I got the liver and probably the heart, but it might be the liver and the lung on the opposite side. Well, I'm all happy. I'm sure I got it. I see him run over there and disappear. So I got a visual of where I need to start trying to track this deer. And I was pretty confident I hit him in the heart, but I didn't. So I go over there, basically where the bamboo started, where the doe was, and I'm looking and looking and looking, and I can't find shit. I was like, I couldn't find anything that confirmed that I even hit the deer, but I knew I hit it. Down on my hands and my knees, and crawling around all these briars and shit. Finally, I find one little speck of blood, and then another little speck of blood. And I've always tried to explain to people that you get on a blood trail. I can't really. It's almost like a religious experience. I mean, because you're trying to put yourself in the position of the wounded animal, and you're looking for everything. I mean, blood trail in a deer, I'm not saying it's any different, but you blood trail a deer that's been shot by a gun, or blood trail a deer that's been shot by a compound. You usually got a pretty big hemorrhage, and you got a lot to follow. But blood trail with a self bow and a stone tipped arrow, more often than not, you don't get a whole lot of evidence, and you got to get focused and get your brain right. And you're looking for insects that have been eating blood, and you're looking for the telltale scuff marks, and looking for hair on the side of a tree. I mean, you're not just looking for blood, you're looking for everything. Well, I'm looking for everything, and I can't find shit. And I'm 100% convinced, even based on where I saw that arrow hit, I knew I had to hit the liver, and if I didn't hit the liver, I hit the guts. And a gut shot deer is a 100% dead deer. Just no, it cannot survive because that wound will usually go septic 6 to 8 hours and that deer will die. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer, but any gut shot deer is dead. So I knew the deer was dead because I either hit it in the gut or I hit it in the liver, and either one's a dead deer. I'm looking, and I can't find nothing. Out of daylight. And it is stressful when you wound an animal that you can't find. But I went home pissed off. So I'm gonna go back the next morning, be cool enough, and look for that deer again. And I did, and I couldn't find anything. So this is kind of like, when you can't find anything, that's when you got to put yourself in a position of a wounded animal. If you're shot in the last rib, mortally wounded, what are you going to do? And that led me to start, as I've tried to tell other people, a mortally wounded deer, at least in my opinion, will follow the path of least resistance. A deer that's wounded but not necessarily mortally might go on about its business, or might, a wound that's not mortal is a much more difficult track, even when you don't have any blood. But a mortally wounded deer, as I said, generally follow the path of least resistance. So I didn't have any blood, and I basically got on my hands and my knees and just started looking through the woods for the path of least resistance. And I knew to my right I had a giant deep creek bed to which I had found deer in before. And I knew to my left was a high hill. And my thought was, is this deer is going to parallel, he's kind of stuck between a high spot and a gorge. And he's going to parallel this creek bed. So I start following and looking for sign, and I go, 200 or 300 yards, and I don't find anything. Checking in the ditch, checking up the hill, checking everything around me. And I'd say about 400 yards, maybe 500 yards on my perceived track. I see this there was a little dogwood spur. And it was leaning funny. It just didn't look right to me. And I went over there, and all up and down the side of that dogwood sprout was covered in blood. Nothing on the ground, but the whole side of that tree was covered in blood and hair. So I knew whatever was going on in my head was leading me in the right direction. But there was nothing else to follow, again. So I keep going. This thing is basically, it's funneling down to a point. I was like, I'm gonna find that deer, and I'm gonna find it when he doesn't have to negotiate this high bank, and he doesn't have to negotiate this hill, and it all just funnels into a bottom. And I went and looked, I got down in there, and I was looking, and the deer was right there. He was deader than shit, but I kept looking over him. And I almost didn't find him because I passed him, and what he did is he ran down until he just expired. And when he was getting ready to expire, he just tucked his legs in, he squatted against his bank, and his head just rolled over like that. And he was done. And when I was looking from behind, his tail was down. It just looked like a lump of leaves. But once I passed him, in the corner of my eye, I saw this little white spot. It was a little white spot under his throat. And so I got him. But what had happened was I hit him in the guts first, went through the liver, and just caught that one lung. So he probably died. I mean, he was about 700 yards away, which was a long track. And I figured when I hit him with that arrow, he sprinted, and he probably expired within, I don't know, 2 or 3 minutes. Because when I found him, he was in that knot with his head rolled over. He'd been there all night, and he was locked up rigor mortis. I mean, it wasn't like he just died a few hours ago. But it was frosty, and I was able to salvage some meat. But part of the problem with that shot is when you penetrate the gut first, you could hit the heart, but you're not going to have much to follow because the contents of the stomach, basically, they almost act like a sponge because now they're outside of the stomach matter, and they close the wound off. That's why I didn't have any blood. That and the fact that my trajectory was so arced that I hit high, and any matter you get in the body cavity has got to come up to a plane before it can get out. That's why it was spreading on the tree and not on the ground, because it was never, it wasn't actually exiting the wound. But I'm rambling on. That was a long track, and I was pretty pleased with myself that I was able to find that deer with just 2 specks of blood and a hairy, bloody dogwood 700 yards away. But as I said, stalking, and ground hunting, and still hunting takes a lot of energy. And after I killed a few deer like that, I'm getting older, and this shit ain't as much fun as I thought it was. So I started getting back up in the trees. And now I get back, I can't do that shit with my heels anymore. I can't stalk. I mean, I can stalk a little bit, but I'm not, whatever. So I get back up in the trees. I'm hunting again I made this little platform out of some cedar sticks and whatever. This little 6-pointer comes by me. He was close. He was probably 10 yards. And it was getting dark, and I thought I had a really good shot. I was kind of in some leaves and tree limbs and whatnot. But I saw a window and I took it. And I heard that arrow slap, and that deer barreled the hell out of there. And I waited, I don't know, probably 5 or 10 minutes. Never heard anything crash, never heard never heard what you want to hear, which is something running off in the woods and then falling on your dead. So I get down, start looking, find blood, find pretty decent blood. And I don't know, I track him probably 40 or 50 yards, and it just quits again. What have I done now? And same thing, looking, I'm trying to think path of least resistance, what's this deer going to do? And you're getting down at the deer level and you're looking for, you can't look from your perspective as a 6 foot tall man in my path of least resistance. You got to get down at a deer with his head forward, because it just changes the pattern. What you're going to jump over, what you're going to avoid, so I'm doing all that. And I go probably another 50 yards with no blood. And there's this giant, and I use it as a landmark a lot when I'm hunting, this giant, rotten, old poplar tree. It's huge, but it's just spongy and rotten. And I look up in this, poplar tree, and the knock end of my arrow, not the pointed end, the knock end is stuck in that poplar tree with the pointed end facing me. What in the hell? How did that even happen? And I checked the arrow out, and it's bloody. It's got at least 18 inches of blood. So I know I got good penetration. I start looking for blood again, and a few specks here and there, but I just can't find anything. And I'm looping, and I start doing these concentric circles, and just trying to find something. I'm convinced I killed it. Just can't find it. And I'm really getting frustrated. This is the next morning, by the way, because I couldn't find it that night. So the next morning I'm out there, and that's when I find the arrow. And I just start trying to figure out where the deer ran and what he's going to do, and what are the landmarks and the borders and the creeks, and everything I come up with is just leading to zero. And eventually I end up almost in the same spot where I told you about the buck that I paralyzed, and the big buck, and I'm only like 50 yards from that particular area. Standing on this old roadbed looking over the pond, and I just see something in this pond going, just wiggling. What in the hell is that? A turtle? What is that? Just moving around like that. So I go look. I said, that's my deer. He's in that pond. I said, he can't be alive, but he looked alive because it was his rib cage. Part of his rib cage was above the top of the water, and it was just going like this. Goddamn thing I've ever seen. So, all right, I gotta go wade out in this damn pond and get another deer. So I didn't strip down to anything, but I stripped down probably to my t-shirt, jeans, or something, because it's chilly. And I go out, wade in this pond, and it's pretty shallow all the way except for right where that damn deer is, and then it just drops. It used to be a cattle pond, and it goes up to my neck pretty quick. God damn! And the damn deer is still moving. going on? But I can see his head, you know, I can see his antlers, his head in the water. So I take my bow and I stick it down in the water because I'm right at my neck. I'm going under, and I hook that antler and I start to pull that deer. And all of a sudden, the deer starts pulling back. I know this deer's dead. What the hell? So I'm pulling a deer, and the deer's pulling back. I'm pulling a deer, the deer's pulling back. Jeez Louise. So I was like, I had enough of this. So I got about maybe rib cage deep in the water, and I give that thing a good tug. And there's two, great big giant snapping turtles, and they've got that deer by the end of the nose, and they're fighting over it. They're trying to pull him under, and I'm trying to pull him up. I'm like, good Lord. So I'm fighting these snapping turtles. And about that time, I hear this engine crank up, this tractor. Because again, I'm not where I'm supposed to be. And this maintenance guy, he gets on his tractor and he starts bush hogging right down all around the pond. I'm freezing my ass off in this in this cesspool of a pond, fighting two snapping turtles while this guy's bush hogging around me. I'm trying to hide. Wait, so I gotta sit in this fucking pond for 15 or 20 minutes until this guy's done bush hogging. Finally finishes, goes up there. I drag his, I get the damn snapping turtles off, drag a deer up there. I hit it right square in the ass, which is a deadly shot. You hit that deer in that ass and you break that femur bone and hit that femoral artery, they can't tote it. But I hit him high again, and the little bit of blood I found was all, I'm sure it was all over the deer and not all over the ground. But I never could figure out how that arrow got spun around backwards in that tree. But another deer out of the drink. I wonder how long I've been running my mouth. Let's see if I can. All right, 28 minutes. I'll just do a quick little poem and then I'll be done. So, that particular spot, that pond and that area around that pond is always one of my favorite places in that woods. And I had, the funny thing about that pond is I had a friend that passed away, and he always sort of reminded me of this pond. I guess I don't need to explain anything. I just need to read a little story, a poem, whatever. Anyway, this is called Still Waters. About my friend and about that pond. There's a place I sometimes go to seek solace from the trials of life. A small pond hidden among cedars and pines. Within lies the dark, still waters. After heavy rains, it never muddies. In the deepest cold, it will not freeze. during the longest drought, it will never dry. No matter what my troubles, I can always peer into this liquid glass, and with all-knowing silence, it gave me resolution. It is a spiritual abyss of warmth, fulfillment, and clarity, much like a friend I once had. I said farewell to that friend recently. At our last visit, his spirit seemed ill at ease. I tried to be the comfort he had been to me, but emotions clouded my thoughts and choked my dry, empty words. I fear I have failed him. As he struggled, as he struggled with each labored gasp, a storm of tears raged upon my still waters. And as a weary December sun surrendered to the cold night, so too did he draw his last breath. Overcome with sadness and strife, I looked upon his lifeless body, and with his same silent knowledge, he again gave me resolution. As if peering in the dark, glassy waters, I could then see he is in death as he was in life, peaceful, silent, and all-knowing. His physical presence may no longer be, but his loving spirit still remains. Whenever I need him, I know he's there, for he will always be my dark, still waters. I got through it. Another cancer victim. Anyway, I've spent a lot of time staring in that pond. I've spent a lot of time dragging shit out of that pond too. Alright. See you next Sunday, Mom.